Let's record the thing.
All right. Well, greetings, everyone. This is a very exciting day for the Synthetic Coffee Break podcast. My name is Andrew. I'm from the Yonko LLC.
I'm Brandon. I'm from the Yonko LLC, and we're bringing in a guest today. This is our first guest we're trying to do, and it's Marshall B Garrett. And Marshall, if you want to give a quick word on yourself before we get going.
Sure. I am a director, mostly in Maryland. I've worked with both of these fellows quite a few times. And I think I was invited to be the first guest because Brandon told me he loved me once, and he's been trying to make up for that ever since, or make it true, maybe.
I think I've been trying. I'm not only did I say I love you, I didn't say it like in a passionate way. I said it in a passive aggressive way, like I was mad at you for not picking up the groceries, but we're gonna make this work. Don't worry about it.
Right, exactly.
That's
one of the shining moments of my entire artistic life was that.
I love you. I love you.
I love you too. Wait, what?
So this might actually be a good time to kind of review what we've set as our own guidelines as far as the timer, because like I was just saying to you pre-recording, I guess in the what do you call those? The conversation, the convo lingo, the podcast lingo.
And that's just talking. That's just what talking is.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So I we might start getting, some new people listening, with having guests and with the esteem that Marshall brings to the podcast. So what the kind of rule that we've set up is that we set a timer for 15 minutes. And then whenever the timer goes off, that's basically it's a hard stop right there.
Wrap up your thought. We're going home.
Yeah.
So are you ready to start that? Are we going to start that timer?
Yeah, we've got our catchphrase now.
All right, let's start that timer. So we have started the timer. We've done introductions. We've done small talk. So how do you continue to create in a world that wants to distract you, Marshall?
Yeah, you're starting with a little question, right? Because one of the things that I'm finding is really helpful is space change right now, and something I've been thinking about an awful lot, because I think as you two have both experienced, like creating in a pandemic means creating in the same space that you eat, in the same space that you zone on Facebook, in the same space that you raise your family, whatever it is that you're doing. It's all the same space. Like I've talked to Brandon probably 100 times in the last 2 years, and every single time he's been exactly where he is right now, on my computer screen in the room that he's in, except for that one random time we ran into each other at the zoo. But I think a lot of people have found pandemic creation to be an exercise in trying to do different things in the same space, and that gets really arresting. And like I said before we were recording, I said to Andrew, right now I'm in North Carolina, which is not where I normally am, or where I've ever been, and I'm finding, even though I'm still like rehearsing in random classrooms in a church and just trying to make it work outside and things like that, because it's a different church and because it's a different outside, it is somehow more creatively liberating than a lot of what I've been trying to do in the last couple of years. What do y'all think? Or am I not supposed to ask you back?
No, you always are allowed to ask back. It's just we just fill this time with talk. I think being somewhere different and creating a space to make is so important, and it's so easy to ignore, and it's so easy to not to like. Because like the thing we talk about a lot is we're trying to create on the hard days, not just the easy days. And I think one of the things that you have to do to create on the hard days is you have to go somewhere sometimes. Sometimes you can just make in your bed while the TV plays and you can do it and you're going to be fine. But on the days where it's difficult, it's the days we're trying to figure out how to get past. And I think sometimes just, packing up and going to a new place is so important sometimes. And I think it's funny that you're going to different places that are still the same place.
Mhm.
Like no matter what, you're gonna end up like you. I feel like when if you live, if you have to, if you do art for money, for like real money, you end up in the same place no matter where you are, which is weird. You're gonna end up in a bunch of rehearsal spaces. You're gonna end up in a bunch of hotel rooms. You're gonna end up in like, have you seen the what is the same there that is the same that is here? Like, what deja vus do you have?
You know what my big deja vu is stacks of folding chairs against the wall that I bump into and knock over at the worst possible time. That is like, and I think you've both been present when like I've been pacing around and fallen off a stage or something like that. I know Brandon, you've witnessed that. But yeah, like it seems like any space that I'm going into it is not a purpose-built rehearsal studio. And so like there are meetings or whatever that happen there. Yesterday I was in a rehearsal and somebody popped in and asked us where the AA meeting was, and we're like, that hasn't been in this room for like 6 years. Sorry, dude. So yeah, that's been my consistent.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's kind of a combination of the fact that like I think the way arts are experienced are probably very similar in a lot of different communities, and also the funding that people need, is very similar. I think in a lot of different communities, but also I think I wonder if it's kind of a I wonder if it has to do with our own personal needs and our own personal experiences as well. Like I mean, you gave the example of like knocking over chairs. I've got my own examples of those as well. Where I've been in multiple places like doing the very similar things as well. So I wonder if it's kind of a combination of all that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting.
What is it for you, Andrew? I really want to know for you, Andrew. What's your bumping into folding chairs?
Well, I think one of the things that Brandon and that I've mentioned to Brandon a lot on the podcast is like my social anxiety. So I think for me, it has more to do with like the social anxiety part of it.
Oh,
where,
sure.
Yeah, where I end up having like maybe the a similar conversation, or well, I should say a similar awkward conversation with people. I think so I think that's probably the first one that comes to mind for me. I think.
So yeah, it's interesting that like I was like, hey, do you have any deja vus? And you went, here's a fundamental truth about myself, which is interesting that you can figure that out just by moving. Which is like, hey, if everything changes around me, what stays the same is like that's an answer you can find for yourself, and I think that's a wonderful thing to look at. Good girl, she is a good girl. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to talk about, I brought Marshall on because you're kind of a sports guy, right?
I developed into somewhat of a sports guy, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a sports guy, but I work for sports. And my question is, what is sports relationship to art for you?
Yeah, so I was like really surprised when you sent me this question, but then I've been obsessing about it ever since. And the moment where an actor drops a prop?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you as an audience member especially are just like staring at that prop, and you're trying to figure out if the actor has noticed the prop. You're trying to figure out how they're going to clean it up, and like literally nothing matters to you as an audience member until they've taken care of that prop that they've dropped, especially if it goes on and on and on and they haven't noticed it, right? And it's because it's a real thing that's happening. It's not planned, right? I remember once, this ended up being bad, but this is the sort of thing you can do in grad school. I deliberately had somebody rip a piece of paper and drop it at the floor at the beginning of a play, and I just left it there for the entire play, just to have like an underlying level of tension of like, when are they going to pick up this dumb prop? And like, that's a stupid thing you can do in grad school, but for me, how this relates to the sport thing is like the whole thing is that, right? Like everybody's got their plan, everybody's got their thing that they're doing, but because they're working in opposition, and truly working in opposition, not in the like manufactured conflict of theater, but like the real, like we are you know, in a lot of ways, like football is the main sport that I watch, and like the ball is the dropped prop, right? And there's, for me, like nothing more exciting watching football than a fumble, because anything can happen in a fumble. Nobody is ready for a fumble. And the ball is oblong and it bounces wherever it bounces, and like, you know, it can go anywhere. And you've got, you know, 22 guys all focused on this one thing. So like when I think about the relationship of sports to arts and entertainment, it's and why I think sports for a lot of people are more compelling than traditional arts, is because it's something that's really happening. Like, you know, I've devoted the last 30 years of my life to making theater, and I think I'd rather watch somebody make a painting in real time than watch a play, because like you are literally making a thing right now in front of me.
What are your thoughts? Because mostly this is just me helping me out because of my new weird job, which you didn't think was real.
I really didn't.
I've become fascinated about the art around sports. Would you ever, like, how would you make art around sports? So sport is happening. You got to do the Shakespeare thing. There's bear baiting now. I know bear baiting is like the worst variation of sport, but
Yeah.
but now you have to make art around it. How would you work with that?
Yeah, I wish I knew. Like one of the things
Well,
like the show that I'm doing. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you mean, Brandon, are you asking a question like making art while it's happening, or like making art as a competition to sports? Is that what
I don't think we can compete. I'm just gonna speak. Like it is. I'm fascinated to know what people think is different about it, and that's an excellent example.
Yeah.
Mostly because maybe it's because it is so uncontrollable. I'm not really a sports guy, but unless you know it's the Astros. Yeah, I said it. Screw them. But I'm more interested about like what you make around it to exist in that space.
Oh yeah, so like the ephemera around the performance or whatever. Yeah, because this is actually like something that I'm thinking about a lot right now. Andrew and I have talked just in our own life about like how do you make a performance that is really like a full experience. And like you know, the flippant answer is like integrate alcohol, right? But it's not just alcohol, but like it's integrate the whole event around it, right? Like people will go, you know, people will go to a bar and spend, you know, $40 on drinks, or you can charge them a $50 you know, ticket and say, hey, you get a free beer with your thing, and they're gonna, ooh, free beer, yeah, I'll pay $50 for that ticket, and then buy extra beer after that. You know, there is something about like what else can be incorporated around it. So like, is there something for the audience to do that doesn't feel like the awful like, hey, theater person, you now have to be like go on stage or somebody's going to look at you and talk to you and make you answer back. You know, we're clapping in the aisles, right? It's not that stuff. It's not the fake stuff, but having it be kind of folded into an entire event, right? And like y'all know, I don't remember if we said this, but like I'm primarily a theater artist, and like remembering that theater emerged from like multi-day orgiastic Dionysian festivals, where like yeah, there's a play going on, but also, you know, it's an amplified version of the myth of what Woodstock was, and so it having the entire event. And like I love theater lighting, but like as soon as you turn off the lights in the audience and say, sit here quietly and watch this thing, like that's when it gets so much less interesting than sport to me, because like I can be watching my game, and then I can also be like I can be, you know, texting my friend who's in the stands on the other side and try to meet up in a place that the security guards won't chase us away, or I can try to like go get a snack, or you know, whatever else. I'm not demanding that you look at this thing on the field, but then if I make something compelling enough, people will want to watch it.
Well, and I think I think I've had a very similar struggle like my entire career, my entire life as well, I think, because, I mean, uh, I come from that kind of classical music background, where, you sit on stage in a very similar way, and people are kind of forced to look in that direction. And I think, I think that's always been the struggle with me because, I do come from the classical background, but I started off as a rock guitarist, right? And
Right.
having that sort of tension within me, because as a performer, of course, I love the classical format. I love being on stage. I love people being quiet. I love people, watching me, of course, so as a performer, I love that. But, I can't deny that as an audience member, that's not always what I want, And so I think that's always been kind of a struggle for me as well. And you've seen like a lot of the stuff that we do, it kind of goes along those lines, and then also, we've talked about the rockestra stuff, as well. And,
Right.
that's been a way, I think, for me to sort of blend the two worlds, as well. And
Well,
so
there's
it's
something
very,
about Rockestra that like I feel like I mean, in fact, I know this. The first time I went to a Rockestra was before I ever had a smartphone, and the
Mhm.
last time I went to Rockestra was in probably my like worst stuck in it phase of my life.
Mhm.
And there's never been a time that I've gone to Rockestra and been like, oh, I want to be looking at my phone right now because what you're doing is so compelling. But I also don't ever remember being told I can't,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I don't remember being told like, don't do it. I know I see people pull out their phones to record or take pictures or whatever.
Yeah.
And y'all don't scold them, which is good. Don't scold them. But there is something about what that whole experience is that makes you want to pay attention because,
Mhm.
and as it like evolved into more than just like a concert, but also like you start doing bits in between,
Yeah.
as the costumes came in and stuff like that, it became a question of like how are they going to do this next? What are they going to do next?
Yeah.
And that is our time.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, good talk, everybody. Well, thank you so much, Marshall.
Yeah.
Good luck
Yeah, thank you.
on your show and have fun in North Dakota.
Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah,
I didn't
Marshall.
want anybody to dox you.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to like advertise, just to let us know about
Yeah,
you, or
yeah.
website or anything
If I
like
can
that?
do the plug, if I can do the
Yeah.
plug,
Yeah.
I'm directing Pericles right now, which is by Shakespeare and some other folks. It is a like seafaring swashbuckling thing, and we are doing that at Sweet Tea Shakespeare Festival or Shakespeare. I don't think they say company or festival or anything. I think it's just Sweet Tea Shakespeare. But if you go to sweetteashakespeare.com, you can find out info on the show. And the Saturday night shows are streaming. That opens on July 15th and it runs about a month.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for being our first guest.
Oh, I
And
was so happy to.
we'll look forward to, we'll definitely have you back. We'll look forward to many more conversations.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.